Mark
Great,
Slaughter,
great.
of course, from Slaughter the band. Mark just released the third Slaughter album, 1995, Fear No Evil, on a very limited standard edition 2 LP gatefold vinyl set, first time on vinyl. But even more so, there's a limited edition definitive edition box set, which is just incredible. Urge everybody to go look at that promo video because it's something else what's in the set. And first time on vinyl, man, it's got to feel good, huh, Mark?
Yeah, man. It's crazy because all these records all the Slaughter records were made not for vinyl because vinyl was actually exiting the picture at that time. So the first record, there's hardly any vinyl. It's all European, UK, and also in Germany as well. I think there's some in Canada, and then the record club. But the record club, it wasn't mastered for that. So you're dealing with something that's mastered different than what all this stuff that we're trying to introduce is, going back in, taking the original tracks and off DAT and off the original recordings and basically remastering it for vinyl only. So it's a blast to do.
Yeah, I bet, man. I saw the package itself, and I mean, it's just stunning. There's 2 discs, and they're half speed. They're 45 RPM. Right. You're a studio guy. Not everybody is. Tell us what, most albums are 33. Doing that at half speed, it's better for clarity, correct?
Yeah, it's for clarity, and it's just spreading it out through, a couple of records. So it's it's more, you're getting more, the needle between the vinyl, in essence. But records are warmer. I've explained to many people that the mastering process for digital is completely different, meaning if you look at your levels on a digital side, it's just straight up and it never moves. The meter's just right at 0. I mean, it's just pegged. What happens with the way the remasters or the original versions of this is you actually see it breathe. You can actually see the meters moving. It's, you turn it up a little louder to get that, but you're getting the depth of all the waves. So if there's a wave of sound like this, or small waves, which is a treble, here's the bass waves. What happens is when you squash that down, they call it brick wall mastering. So they're actually, in essence, just squashing all that sound into a box. But what they're doing is they're shaving off the top of the wave. So if the wave, they're actually shaving the top of it. And in essence, that becomes what they call a square wave. And a square wave is distortion. So what you're getting with vinyl is you're not getting the distortion. You're getting a warmer feel. And that's, really in essence, that's what's, why vinyl people or audiophiles are so into vinyl, is because there's a warmth to it.
Yeah.
And it's not squashed, brick wall mastered, and there's no square wave. So actually, it's easier on your ears to listen to all the time that way.
Man. And I mean, you couldn't have done this any better. You know what I mean? At half speed on vinyl, it's warm, it's clear. That's a treatment it deserves.
It's a blast to be able to go into it. Jason and Joe, they get it, and they did Kiss My Wax, did the last Ace Frehley record, which is just amazing. And that's the key thing. They're where the cost of doing it and the production of the artwork and everything else, you start degrading where your profit margin is, but it really is more of a time capsule that we're creating in all this. It's not a money grab, it's a time capsule.
Yeah.
So that's, in essence, that's really what we're trying to do with this whole thing, is just really create something that we want. And then also we threw the old golden ticket thing of somebody able to see the band live anytime, like a Willy Wonka style. It's just a fun stuff that we wish that some of our peers would have done with us. We're still those kids who love the music.
and that's so clear. I always get that from you. You're always a consummate pro in here in this industry, and it's so fan friendly. It always has been. This
Yeah,
box,
thanks. It was thought that way. It was thought that way.
clearly, vinyl of the demos and bonus tracks in here, which is really cool because a lot of those are
Right.
just on the Japanese import, right?
And there's also some stuff that's never been heard. I mean, we went into some DATs and some tapes that we had that have never been heard. A lot of times we would record a song up and not, that was our version of listening to it to go, okay, is it worthy of us recording this or using this for the record? And and that's really what we put out there is the early, how should I put it, the shaping and the structuring of these songs as they were written. And that's what we did on the extra album that's in this. And it's also mastered. So it's going to sound as good as it can sound for demos. And our demos were real close to records. They really were. When you're the ones who are producing it, writing it, and, still performing it all these years later, that's a key point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, to get the demos, in this kind of quality is, that's a fan's dream to get that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a guy who obviously.
Well, and I think that's it. We just love to share that. So this is how it really went. I mean, that's what you'd want to play somebody. You want to say, hey, look, this is what it was like when we were writing it.
Right.
There's one stage before this, but it's so, just basically a guitar and a bass and Dana and I sketching things out that I don't think people would really understand our sketches. But when you get into the first part of the recording, I mean, you totally see it and you totally hear it.
Yeah, it's so exciting, man, for fans. It's just
it's fun. It's a lot of fun to go into it for sure.
It is cool. And I want to get into the Fear No Evil time too, like you were mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
This is 95 now. You had surgery in 92. So you hadn't done an album since that. Mm-hmm. Tim is in trouble with the law. Dana has the accident.
Dana had a bad accident.
Yeah.
We were lucky to have him. And then he also, which, we never really talked about, but he broke his left wrist.
Yeah.
And so he had to actually go through rehab to be able to use his left hand.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, you go through all this shit and you just go, God, man, what else could happen? But I mean, we all tried to just keep it light and up and that's all you can do. But at the same time, you're just going, man, I mean, I remember when he put a bass on and he's just like, I just can't, man. Oh my God, this is just killing me. Because he didn't have the strength in his wrist to play bass. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
Scary. And on top of all of that, your label's being consumed by EMI, and they're going a different direction, and they drop you.
Right.
It's crazy. And then, of course, MTV and all that, and radio is going a whole different direction, away from music, and especially the hair metal LA scene. So it's a tumultuous time, to say the least. Because of that, does this record, all those roadblocks, but still you guys weave through it and get this record, which is a really good record. Is that why we get a box set of Fear No Evil as opposed to Stick It To You or, something a little more popular?
I think we're just kind of starting, the other ones are out there. This was never done. And I think we're really wanting to, we'll probably backtrack to those later. But right now we're just in this whole mode of these are records. Some people never even heard this record. And again, if you're a fan of it and you want a good quality of it, this is it. And we're going to do this because this is something we want to do. It's like, look at the music industry as we knew it back then is a totally different thing. It's not like you can sell a zillion records, but it is more so it's about having the quality and having exactly what you'd want. When I was a young kid, I used to go with my buddy Pat to a place called Odyssey Records, and we'd see the imports from Europe, and you'd see that their artwork might be glossier or all that. I mean, we really got into the quality of the pressing from the outside of the vinyl to the inside. And and that was the key point. We just really wanted to bring back that old school feeling of getting something that was a good quality product, as opposed to just throwing something out there in the marketplace because it's not there. That's not where our head's at with any of this.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's an amazing cover. And like you say, I mean, if you were going to do a money grab, you would do Stick It To You, of course, right?
Yeah. Even in that, it's just like, there's only so many vinyl people who are into vinyl. It really comes down to this: is you love what you did. We're proud of where we came from. This is an aspect of our career that I don't think a lot of people are really hip to this record. It's the best drum sound that I think we had on any record. Just a great quality. And then after we did the drums at this studio, which is where Quiet Riot recorded all those, all Frankie's drums over there at Pasha, as well as like Billy Thorpe, Aldo Nova, all those things were recorded at the studio.
That's
we
Spencer
were the ones
place, right?
Yeah, exactly. Spencer Proffer's Pasha. When we walked out the door, they closed the door and it became a parking lot. So it was kind of like, as we were doing the record, it was kind of like you see the world imploding towards us, and we were like, oh man, that sucks, but we just kept moving forward and inevitably I think that the record itself is very different. It was but I'm real proud of it. I think the live band that going into Stick It To You was two writers, producers going into putting a project together, and then our first show was with Kiss. And then we became a live band after playing with Kiss, and then we played with Boys, and then we came back and did the Wild. We took 1 month off, did the Wildlife, went out on tour with Ozzy, went out on tour with Damn Yankees, came back, started on Fear No Evil, and just all these events started happening that just started really just squashing the daylights out of our world.
Right.
But in the same time, we still love the music. We still wanted to do quality stuff. And when you're the producer and writers of your own music, you really want to make sure that it's done properly. So I think that's also another part of it is our baby. It's not somebody else's songs, that somebody else wrote that. And, you might like the song, but you're playing it and just thinking, I'm just playing somebody else's song.
Right.
This is all our music.
Yeah. And it's something special. It really is. With all of that in mind, which I think of when I listen to it, it's amazing that you got anything off, much less a really good record. Now, the idea is, how did the whole idea come up? Was it your idea or was it presented to you?
It was presented to us by Jason, of Kiss My Wax Records, and he approached us and said, hey, I just love this record, and I really wish we could do it. You have the masters. We just started the dialogue, and then we started looking for all this extra artwork. We have there's another alternative cover that's in there. It's just like we really went through the whole story, how we were doing it within this box set too, along with 3 glossies and that are signed. And, it's really, like I said, it's really just trying to do a product of how we would want it if it was us getting it from some other band that we love.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this idea is presented to you and you go to Dana with it and Blas. What is their reaction to it? Hey, I'm going to do.
Well, I mean, it was Dana and I. We had a kind of like this type of a call, a Zoom call. And we talked about it. And hey, wouldn't it be great if we did this? And hey, what if we? And we might have the demos. Dana, do you have the demos? I think I have this. And so we're going back and forth. And he's sending stuff to me, and I'm sending stuff. We're Dropboxing, and so it's like there's a lot of collection. And if it wasn't due to the COVID time, I don't think we would have had the chance to really focus on getting this material. But for us, it was like, what, let's let's do this right in a time capsule that people will really get it. And that's really where we were with it. And
That's cool.
these guys were, and they're going to do it in quality. It's not going to be, just like I said, it's not just thrown out there. This is
Right.
done as the vinyl purist would want it to be.
And Dana and Bloss, they got wide Fear No Evil, and they were good with that. They didn't, I would expect, you come to them and they say, why are we doing Fear No Evil? Was that at all?
Well,
come up?
No. I mean, again, Dana was part of the whole thing. Bloss, we just said, hey, we want to do this. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. So, so again, it's a collective effort. We're trying to how should I put it? We're trying to go back into something and present it like we wanted it presented in a fading time. People might say the grunge era. Well, we were already deep in the grunge era in '95. So it's not even that. This is we're watching the implosions of major labels at that point that were just going out of business and restructuring and trying to figure it out. Now all that's left of many of those labels is basically the accountants and the people just trying, and the lawyers just trying to keep everything intact of what went on at that time. There's nobody actually servicing this. Yeah. There's nobody that's saying, hey, I got a great idea, because all those labels are gone, so one swallows another one. So there's just a few big fish swimming around at this point as far as labels go. And, who wants to be a part of that? We'll just do it on our own and do it the way we want it to be done, as opposed to how somebody's just going to throw it out there without remastering it or putting the love into it that we're going to get out of it.
Right. It's the diversity on this record too, with your vocals. Did you make it a point to exhibit a little more range? I mean, you're so flexible on this record. I listen to Searchin' and then I listen to Get Used to It. And it's like,
yeah, Searchin' is just something. It's just a part of my voice that we, when we recorded it, when we wrote it, I was like, this is something nobody's ever heard before. And Danny goes, I think you should do it. I think you should do it. It's different. Mm-hmm. And I go, well, I don't think anybody's going to even know it's me until we get into the chorus. Maybe they'll be able to hear the quality of the tone of my voice. That's not the typical, and again, it's very Lou Grahamish. I grew up listening to Lou Graham, big fan of the Foreigner stuff. Yeah. And it's really in more of that mid tone than it is in the high range where most people, oh, that's Mark, where they'd recognize where I'm at. So
but there's a couple things on there, where you're really flexible with the vocals, and like I say, this is the first record coming off of the nodule surgery in '92.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, did that?
And that's not even something. I think I came out of it. When you go through the things that you go through like that, it's like you rehab it, and you. I think that you learn your craft better because you're looking of not being injured again, right? Like you were, but you're also trying to focus in on, what can I do? How can I get around? It's just like anybody, a football player goes in, a quarterback goes in to get his shoulder worked on. Well, you get a good doctor, and then it's more about rehabbing and doing it properly so that, you're not going to hurt yourself again. And, I think at that point I was younger, younger at that time, even though it was like 95, it was only 5 years into Slaughter's career, ultimately,
crazy.
6 years if you had go to the fact that we had it in the can and waited for the record company to get the marketing together. But, I mean, it's, and again, there's a lot of love on this, and it was, we had this record done. It was initially, EMI has a few pressings that they put out just for promo because they're about to put it out to get a feedback. And then we just said, you guys aren't into it, and this is just not good for anybody. And then we ended up going to CMC and working a deal to get out of the deal because we saw the EMI wasn't even going to be a label. We saw what was going on with them.
Yeah, and what a great move, really. Because it went the way you thought it was going to. That's for sure.
Yeah, it did, but at the same time, you're still watching the things fold in on you, and the roads are getting messy. But again, it's this is art. Music is art, and ultimately, we're just trying to get our art out there to a point to where it's listened properly. It's listened the way we hear it and the way we wanted it to be heard. When you're coming off a really warm tape machine, which is what we did on this, it's just different. I mean, we went digital after this. It was a different time.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing wrong with digital, but there is a thing about recording on tape, and you screw up. It's like
right.
You only have a few chances to go in and fix it. So there's a lot of how should I put it? There's just it's more about a performance. If you're a snowboarder going down a mountain, like there's no chances you're going within and out of the trees, and you don't have a chance to undo that like you did in digital. You're committed, and that commitment I think is really cool in the tracks.
Yeah. And then, I'm a photographer as well. So, it's kind of like working in film for me. Before you press the button, you got to know what's right.
Right. And know that there's only X amount of photos that you can do. There's not unlimited amounts of things before your roll's burned up.
Right.
And how you process that is just as important. And I mean, it's, again, all art is that way. And this is about the process of making sure that it was done again, how we saw it and how we heard it, and the way we wanted it to be done. And ultimately, that's the best part of a band being involved with redoing things on vinyl, like we're doing it, is because it's hands-on. Yeah. And again, I think that's a big difference of what people are going to hear on this. And the box sets, I think there's 500 hand numbered, and there's only, I think, 86 of them left. So, I mean, those are almost gone.
Pretty great.
Yeah, it's great,
man. That's
awesome.
Pretty
cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mayor Applebaum. Tell me about Mayor and what his contribution is to this box set.
I've spoken to him. He mastered a few things for me for Madam Max. I mix some stuff for them, and he's great. He's got great ears. And again, he understands where the placement should be on a rock record. He uses his ears. And a lot of times mastering people are just using scopes and other things of what they can just put it in a box and get it out the door. Right. This is a rock and roll purist that is really excited to work on this and some of the other upcoming things we're going to do as well. So to have people that are in your camp that are going the extra mile to make sure it's done properly, that's the difference of how he masters. Yeah, so cool. It's going to be, I mean, understand he's even mastering our demos, which is, that was just something we're just like, all right, just record it. It's not even made for that, but to have it that way, right. Even the demos should sound pretty darn amazing even when it gets into it.
Crazy. Now this 48-page booklet has a lot of older artwork, like you said, the alternate cover. That, by the way, that cover is one of my favorite covers ever, really. That's saying a lot, because the Stick It To You cover is Glenn Wexler, who is one of the greatest photographers.
Glenn Wexler and Hugh Syme. So there's two. You're dealing with two people. I mean, we spent more money in the artwork on that record than the recording cost of that record. Totally. But I mean, this is the guys who did Rush, and I mean, they're just you're asking for the best artwork ever, and so it's the right thing. It's iconic, and it's the right people to create an iconic thing right along with it. So I mean, again, you pay for art to have it done right, and those guys got it. And man, this whole thing, this whole record, from the very beginning, we were really just trying to set a soundscape of what it was like in 94, 95. And and we really were taking a lot of the things that the hard times we were going through. We literally had a song called Hard Times, which is what we were emotionally and physically going through at that time. It was tough.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Is there a song that you've written that means more to you than any other? Is there one that just is? Well, I think
that Fly the Angels is probably the most, because it means more to most people. I think that when you write a song, and you just hope that somebody listens to it. And then when it starts to become a soundtrack of somebody's life, like, the stuff that I listen to, it's the best compliment and feeling to know that somebody actually has brought that to a part of their healing or their process in life, because that's what music ultimately is for me and for most listeners. So, that I don't have a specific one. There's certain songs I just go, wow, that was really cool. That's a great lyric idea. Off Revolution, there was, there was a song called Heaven It Cries. It was very unique on how that was written. But on this record, I'd say that, It'll Be All Right was a soundscape that we were really trying to find a way to even soundscape what a Beatles record was like when we first heard the Beatles when we were kids.
Yep.
And that is probably the most Beatlesque thing that it's always been a part of who we are as a band. But I think that, listening to that, I mean, the mellotron and everything else that's in it, it just takes you right into, that time.
Totally. That's one of my favorites on the record for sure. So Beatlesque. It's, anybody that's making a Beatlesque song, that's a blueprint, man. That's just,
yeah. It is, and it's hard to not sound hokey doing it. And I think this song really, and there's a couple people that are, that do that well, and that are specialized just doing Beatles stuff. But I think this was a nod, but it wasn't like, it still sounds like me singing, but there's just certain instances you go, wow, it's like the Beatles are there with them. And that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. And Breakdown and Cry is another one that, it's a Since I've Been Loving You, Zeppelin-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. And that's probably the least amount of work on the vocal that I used on Breakdown and Cry was the demo vocal. So we ended up re-recording the whole thing. And it was just something about the original vocal that had its imperfections, but it was more believable. Yep. And, even though I could sing it better, but there's the thing of when you put your emotion to it. And that to me is exactly where that was.
Oh, I can see that. I hear that listening to it. It's like, this isn't about making things perfect. This is about pure emotion, man.
No, it was purest. It was recording the drums with, good mics, good room. I mean, everything was worked on. I think that it was the live band that had become a live band from a studio band. And again, it's just a phase of what we went through. Again, our first show was with Kiss in Lubbock, Texas. We never played a show after we recorded that record. So we didn't do a club. We just did a week of rehearsals in a rehearsal room and went right out on the road. So, it was a learning experience of how you dance with other musicians as opposed to putting your tracks down and living with it. And again, when you put your tracks down, you still have to come back and go, what did I do again? You still have to come back to it and re-listen and relearn to make sure that you're doing it in the proper way that you recorded it. You're not doing shortcuts.
Right. Now, you mentioned all of these times of just getting in there and then going right out onto the road. And then this tumultuous time in 95 when you're releasing this record. Is there a most important moment in your career? There's so many points where everything, you could have just been underneath the building when it fell. But, is there one most important moment for you think?
I think that, it's a collective, every spoke is what makes the wheel go. I think that there's moments that, obviously there's moments when we won the American Music Award. That was a spoke. There was the time that we did our first show with Kiss, and when we came off the stage, the record company president was there, and we didn't know he was there, and he presented us with gold records on our first show.
Oh, man.
So it was kind of like, that was one of those things that was like, through all the all the points of really going into the gutter, so to speak, and then going, okay, what's going to happen next? Before we started Slaughter, Dana and I came from the VVI days, and then when we went into this, we had no idea. I mean, nobody has any idea if you're going to have something that is going to make it all the way through, if it's going to get shelved. There's a lot of great bands that made some great records that got shelved by record companies. Mm-hmm. And it's not that the records weren't good. It's just the record companies didn't know what to do with it, and they didn't know how to market it. And, they signed a band for one reason and wanted them to sound like something else because it was the flavor of the week, So luckily we were able to, we were very lucky in the fact that we were able to write our own music, produce our own music, and not have anybody that we had to go to say, what do you think? And, when we played our music to the label, they were like, oh, great, let's put it out next week. They didn't care. They didn't care about the marketing. They just, they got where we were coming from. But we were lucky that Chrysalis, meaning the initial Chrysalis Records, understood the creativity and didn't try to change us into something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, thank God.
Yeah.
The response has been great for this one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And one of my favorite records, Slaughter Records, is Back to Reality.
Yeah.
I love that record. Love is Forever is an amazing song. There's so many great songs on that record. Would you consider doing another box set like this for another record?
I think we're going to release every one of those records off the obscurities in that side inevitably. Cool. To have it presented for our own, it's almost like we're doing it for our own time capsule, so to speak, to where we have it to where it's out there. And again, it's the box set is a limited run, so it's like one of those things that I should buy a couple of them, just sit on them, and make some money on it later because it usually doubles in price. But it's one of those things. We're doing it because we want the product to be exactly. We're only getting one of them, so yeah. It's one of those things you want it to be exactly, the way you see it in your head and all the way through from writing to the end. And that's a nice part of it is we're able to come back to it and collectively make it as good as, if not better. I mean, obviously it's never been, so it is better than where it was because it was never on vinyl.
Right. And, a lot of these records, CD or whatever it was on, they just didn't get a chance because of the time.
And a lot of the pressing plants for vinyl, for instance, at that time were being sold off and scrapped. I mean, I think there's only 4 vinyl plants actually right now that actually make the vinyl. Right. So, I mean, there's not a lot out there as far as the pressing goes. Yeah. So it was kind of like a lost art that was just completely going away. And now it's, back again. And again, it's just for us, the purists who really want to hear it that way. I mean, you can't drive with your record down the road, but you sure can listen to it loud on your stereo.
Absolutely.
Old school,
Absolutely. And I mentioned Back to Reality, and I have to ask you, I've always wondered the instrumental Silence of Ba. What is the significance of that title?
Silence of Ba. The other record that we did, Revolution, there was a thing called Guck, and that was my son Brandon's first word. And Silence of Ba, that was Eli's first word, my other son. Yeah. So it was just kind of like the silence of it. I think it's just kind of bringing my kids into it because, and it's almost like listening to that, I can hear his little toddler feet motoring around when I did that, Right. And I think that's really where it's at, is just to do things that musically are time stamping your own life. And it's a soundscape of that moment. So that's where both of those came from.
That's a beautiful thing, man. It makes it even more special. I always love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Thanks.
Will we ever get a new Slaughter studio album? That's the question I think everybody has.
I ask the same damn question every time I see you guys. I've done my solo records, and they've gone out and done their shows with Vince, and it's so weird because as you get older, your life gets more complicated, and there's more things that are being pulled 5 ways to the one. And collectively, it's like the world is anybody who's in any type of business. Like my father was an electrician. He went to bed, he woke up the next morning, took his thermos and his lunchbox, and was an electrician all day, came home, and that was it.
Right.
Now all of us are just this multitasking warriors of a zillion things that we all do to make ends meet, but it's not just one thing. So it's like we're all consumed with so many things that I think that it's hard for us all to get into that space to say, we're going to do this. Okay, put your families on hold for a minute. Let's just do this. So, look, I've done a lot of projects where I've sent my tracks over the internet and played on other people's stuff here in my studio. And that's the good part of it. But it's a little different than when you're in a room writing and putting songs together and really charting it out, so to speak. It's just a different thing when you're laying down the tracks together.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned that with like stuff with Josh Egan, of course, with Seven Angels.
Right.
Madam X, you did the mixes. That's Roxy and everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Roxy and Maxine. And and that was, and let me tell you something, that was a very, very difficult thing to mix. They gave me, here's like 60 tracks, kind of partially, wasn't labeled correctly from their engineer, but inevitably I was able to figure it all out. But it was, very talented ladies. Yeah. Roxy obviously plays the Vixen, and we always end up doing a show or several shows a year with her. I adore those girls. They're great. They're very talented, and just because they're girls doesn't mean they can't play. They're awesome.
Brett's one of my bestest friends in the world, and she's just so sweet. But she is just an amazing player. She's just
she's amazing. She is, and what's so funny is I've toured with them so much, and we were on the Monsters of Rock tour. Out on the boat, and I went in the back. It was nice because I was able to go in and see the band. So I went in the back of this, huge, beautiful showroom, and I was able to watch the whole show of Vixen. And it's different when you're on the side of the stage. It doesn't sound as good when you're out front. You really get the feel, and I was like, God, man, and I ended up seeing her in the airport, and I said, I just so enjoyed hearing you play. It was so cool, and oh, you want to do something? I'm like, yeah, okay. So next thing you know, I mixed that. We did a tribute to Lemmy on VIP Master. Did you ever see that?
No.
VIP. It's let me see if I can hold on. I'll show you the vinyl. Let me
okay.
That.
Cool.
Yeah, this was something that, I'll be honest with you, it's like one of those things that I just said, man, this is. It was out for like, it's actually, you can hear it on Amazon. I've listened to it on Amazon. Okay. Is that backwards? Awesome. Okay, so it's
beautiful, man.
It's Kill Mister, and it was the tribute to Lemmy. And she sent me, she goes, I wanted to do a tribute to Lemmy because Lemmy was just so freaking cool. And for supporting girls, he just loved it when girls would rock, and
totally. That's so cool.
And I just told her, I said, this is so cool. Yeah, sometime let's do something. And she goes, oh, I've got this one song, and it's a tribute to Lemmy, and it's going to be a year since he passed. And I was like, oh man, that would be great. So I ended up adding the inflections of not necessarily changing my voice, but trying to write part of the melody or the sound of that in the chorus.
Yeah.
Of how I heard Lemmy and how he would sing it.
Right. Which is not easy.
It's not easy. Yeah, I mean he was that type of singer. So
yeah.
I just enjoyed doing it. And again, that's the beauty of where the internet has been a positive,
Right.
to be able to do that. Josh and I did a tribute to Mark Craney, who was the drummer for Jethro Tull and also for Gino Vanelli.
Mm.
And we were able to get some of the original players, Jimmy Haslip and Joe Vanelli, Gino's brother, and we're redoing a couple of those things, and they're going to end up putting that out on vinyl someday, I'm sure. But it's just kind of trickling in the songs as we can get to them, but still trying to keep the integrity of it so that it's done well.
Yeah.
And I'm real proud of that because it's a totally different. It's what I grew up around, but I never did that in my career. So
Right.
it was nice to go into that side chain, so to speak.
Totally. Is there something that you've always wanted to do? On the bucket list, so to speak, on the top of the bucket list.
As far as musically, this has been one of them. Doing this Gino Vanelli thing has been, the tribute to Mark Craney. Those songs of Gino Vanelli was probably because I grew up with it. Two reasons: my mom used to have the 8-track in her car when we drove around, and number two, it was something that Josh and I played a lot when we were in the band room when we were kids, and there was a couple of little things that they did that was just very musical, very Studio Cats, like what we both wanted to achieve as musicians. And it's funny that 40 years later, you fall back into that and we're doing that with the peers of the people who recorded it. So it's a beautiful full circle, it really is. And there's a lot of love in the music, and, certainly, those guys know that we care, and it was done well.
Yeah. And that word has come up so much, the love from the music, and it's
that's
so
all
clear.
that's left in this world, man. If you don't have love for music and love for each other, I mean, there ain't nothing.
Absolutely, man.
I'm doing. Speaking of, I'm doing a project with Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple songs we've written, and we did it right here at the studio. And
wow,
what a talented man, good people, just a brother. And it's nice to be able to work with, again, the people you looked up to. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to know them, and they're twice the human being that you could even imagine them being. So that's it's all about the love, and we're making some great music, and there's going to be a lot of healing going on with this music for a lot of people, and that's what it should be. Music should actually do something for somebody's life. So we're really, really excited about what we're doing.
Man, that is cool. Is there a person you most admire in the industry?
I was out there. I listened to anywhere from Mark Farner to Shaka Khan to Aretha Franklin to, I've listened to some very obscure things. I don't have just this is the person that made it, it was my everything. It's a collective. Right. It really is a collective to me, right, of a lot of artists.
But I
think that's it's kind of like put it all in the blender, and that's how it's my musical environment that made me who I am.
Right. Right. How about the industry side? The business side of things. There's a lot of snakes in the grass. Right. Is there anybody out there, in the industry that you've come across that is, a standout bright light that you really admire because they, like yourself, are pro, they're honest, they're in it for the love.
Right.
Well,
I think that if you look at any of the producers that continue to do it, I mean, look, Dave Grohl is out there doing everything, and because A, he can, and B, that he's got a musical that he's able to do that. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I can't tell you everything that he's done, but I can tell you who he is as a human being, and also paying homage to those that made him who he is musically. That's how I feel. It's just like you just want to see the people that, again, it's a love of somebody else's art. Oh, I love, I love what you've done with the place, so to speak. And that's how the music side of it is, and how it influenced your life. And look, I love Rush, I love Zeppelin, I love Sabbath, I love, I loved, very obscure stuff. But again, Glenn Miller, and I played that in a jazz band when I was a kid. You learn to have an appreciation to it when you have a chart in front of you. So, because it also becomes part of your musical soundtrack of who you become, and because it's in your wheelhouse of what you know.
Yeah.
So Larry Carlton is a guitar player, amazing.
Yeah.
Lee Ritenour, same difference. I mean, these are people nothing to do with the rock side of it, but I mean, you look up their discography, or you look at Steve Lukather, who's an amazing, talent outside Toto. I mean, hats off to him. Absolutely. I'll never be Steve Lukather, but he's Steve Lukather. I don't want to be him. Right. But I can certainly say that there's many a times that you can say, well, what would Luke do? Or what would, those are some of the influences that I heard in Tim's playing. I was like, wow, it's kind of Michael Schenker and Steve Lukather, and Neil Schon. And, those are the things that you find that you have the common baggage with somebody else in marriage or in a band. If you have common baggage and it all matches, then you're going to have something that's going to work good. Because you're going to bring some shit into whatever you do, no matter what. But, if it all matches, then you have something special.
Yeah. And you have been so fortunate in that way to surround yourself with so many people that, bring that kind of.
Right.
It's really.
Right. It's for the right reasons. I think ultimately it's for the right reasons. Look, it's hard to put a price tag on art. You when you as a musician try to do something, you want to get paid because somebody's making money off what you do, but at the same time, there's sometimes you have to say it's for the art.
Yeah.
But you can only do so much of that before you devalue yourself as an artist. It's kind of like if you just build a whole giant tract of homes and you're doing it all cheap, well, the value of those homes are nothing. But if you put it midline or in the right pricing point, then it makes a difference. Same mindset.
Yeah, and that's one of the most difficult things to do with art.
It is.
Sure.
It
really is. It really is. I know that as a creator with a camera.
Sure.
I don't want to.
How do you make money off it? Sometimes you just say, what, I just love doing it, take it. But at the same time, you need to, your lenses get broken. You go out and somebody spills a beer on it. I mean, there's all that stupidity that goes on. To get there, you still have to maintain to not go in the hole doing what you love.
Yeah. And man, Mark, you have been the soundtrack of so much of my life.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And we, as fans, appreciate you for sure. And like I said, your professionalism, your head is on straight. It's so great to see. So great to see you still going.
Thanks.
I see the tour. You guys got quite a few dates. Are you adding dates?
Oh my God! It's just like you think that it was that we were never on lockdown. I mean, there's about 30 dates on the books, which is more than most bands I even know of. I mean, I think we have a harder schedule than most. But we kicked the can down the road, so to speak. Okay, well, we had these shows booked before, and then we're just like, we'll just kick it down the road. We'll just do it later. And so what we did is we just basically were picking up shows that were already in place. So a good half of what we have out there is something that was already there. And the rest of it is filling up because people want to rock again. That show in Houston was just great, man. It's odd because we've known people that have died from COVID, and we're all trying to figure this thing out. And whether you believe in this or that or the other, I mean, it's become stupid. But we're all just trying to get back to normal. What is the new normal? We just want to rock again. So however we can get there.
Yeah, that's so cool. I see so many bands, especially yourself, filling that schedule. I just hope everybody can be safe, and we can do this again, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really cool.
Well, and that's a key point. I mean, life is so short. I mean, it's when you see people that 1 minute are just fine, the next minute they're gone. I mean, you realize we're only on this spinning rock for so long. So, tell somebody you love them, and if you love certain type of music, play it loud and love it while you got your hearing. I mean, it's just like, just fucking take it all in, man, while you can, because that's really where life is.
Totally, man. Well, you're coming out my way. I'm right around Chicago, so you're coming out my way around August 7th. I think I got
Great.
Great. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, Mark. And
look forward to seeing you in person, and we'll definitely do the hang. Reach out, the ways to do that, and we'll look forward to hanging out. And again, thanks for your love of not just our music, but everybody's music that I see behind you. I got mine all transferred digitally, so
and I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have you and all of these other people in my ears. I just really, it's the value.
Isn't it funny? It's how I feel about music too. I mean, it's if you have that, if it resonates in your soul, and I think that some people just don't really. Music doesn't mean that much. They might be into sports. Well, that's cool, but music for those who are just really driven in music, and that's their world. I mean, it is your world, and it's my world, and.
Man.
So glad we're blessed to be able to do that and enjoy life.
Absolutely, man. It is the breath of life for sure.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love you. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Right back at you. And thank you, everybody who's watching this. And, the bottom line is go hug somebody you love and turn up your music real loud. Fear No Evil is out and on vinyl, not physically out, but the pre-orders are there. Yep. And in the meantime, Slaughter will be out there doing some rock shows. So come on out and see us and smile a little bit, all right?
Man, it's way cool. Way cool. We got it all from you, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Have a blessed day. Thank you.
All right. You too, bud. Bye.
Bye-bye.